Republican Governor Greg Abbott's administration had placed the razor wires in the Rio Grande to
5-4.
prevent illegal border crossings, saying Texas has a right to protect itself from the influx of crossings. Texas sued the Biden
5-4
administration after
on
federal
that.
border agents cut through some of the razor wire. Texas claimed the move damaged the state property.
Report came from nonprofit OpenTheBooks.org. They obtained the data from a Freedom of Information Act request.
Data shows that spending on the Office of Refugee Resettlement reached $10.9 billion last year. It was up by $2 billion compared to the year before.
Most of the spending explosion came from grants under the agency's Refugee and Entrance Assistance Program. This figure jumped from $33 million in 2021 to $616 million last year.
The program provides services such as emergency housing assistance, work authorizations, public assistance benefits, medical screening, school enrollment, employment, and mental health referrals and legal assistance.
This is crazy.
Authorities are finding more and more U.S. military-grade weapons in the hands of drug cartels, and the Mexican government wants an urgent investigation into it.
Mexico's army is finding belt-fed machine guns, rocket launchers, and grenades that are not sold for civilian use in the United States.
This poses a special challenge for Mexican authorities. The Mexican Army and Marines still have superior firepower, but the drug cartel's weaponry often now outclasses other branches of Mexican law enforcement.
There is one very important thing, and that is that the Defense Department has warned the United States about weapons entering Mexico that are for the exclusive use of the U.S. Army. It is very urgent that an investigation into this be carried out.
Hunter Biden's business associates will be testifying before members of Congress later this week. It's part of the House impeachment inquiry into President Biden. On Thursday, Mervyn Yan will testify behind closed doors before the House Oversight and Judiciary Committees. He worked with Hunter Biden through Chinese energy companies CEFC and Hudson West 3. And on Friday, Rob Walker will testify behind closed doors before both committees. Walker is known for working on a joint venture called Sinohawk Holdings. This was meant to partner up with CEFC. Both interviews will be transcribed. Yan and Walker's depositions come before Hunter Biden's own closed-door testimony scheduled for February 28th.
Is affecting everyone. This is going to happen time and again unless public officials at all levels really sort of get it together and start pursuing policies that put students and families first.
I mean, with your assumption that this could happen more regularly in the future, how do you think that parents should respond? How do you think they should make their voices heard in this type of situation?
Parents need to make their voices heard at every level, but of course it all starts locally, and that means demanding that your local school board puts students first. That's true not just for immigration, but it comes to curriculum, making sure kids get to learn the fundamentals rather than being taught someone else's political priorities. It affects every facet of the way a school is run, and parents need to be the ones who demand from their local education leaders that students be put first and that parents have a seat at the table.
All right, excellent points. Thank you so much, Angela, for your time.
Thanks, Melina.
Now, switching over to another top of the ballot issue, President Biden is holding a campaign event rallying for abortion access in Virginia this evening. This comes after he rolled out his new abortion initiatives on the 51st anniversary of Roe v. Wade. With the low approval ratings, abortion is one issue on which Biden has been campaigning hard. We spoke with Sean Carney, who's the CEO of 40 Days for Life, about how abortion has been portrayed leading up to this election year by both Republicans and Democrats. Joining me now is Sean Carney, who's the CEO of 40 Days for Life. Thank you, Sean, for your time today.
Good to be back. Thanks for having me.
Biden's task force are reportedly working on various executive actions that the president can take to expand what they call reproductive rights, aka abortion policy. Do you think we could see more of Biden skirting the Supreme Court ruling like we did with the student loan forgiveness? What do you think you guys would do at your organization if they do take such actions to skirt the overturn of Roe versus Wade?
Well, they're already trying to do it. I mean, I don't know what else Biden is supposed to do. The country is in shambles. The federal government's made abortion their sacrament. He will make his abortion and his campaign part of it. Wade was, I mean, he announced all this on the anniversary of Roe versus Wade. Even Ginsburg said it was bad law, and the Supreme Court didn't just overturn Roe v. Wade, they beat it to death with a baseball bat. It was horrible. It was based on bad 1973 science, not even good 1973 science. And I frankly think that Biden just doesn't have anything else to run on.
So about the issue of abortion with regards to the Democrats campaigning, they use this term that, a federal abortion ban, and they use that to stoke voters and say this is what you can expect to see if Republicans take control of Congress or the White House. What would you say to voters who may feel when they hear federal abortion ban and that Republicans could push for that?
Well, there is no federal abortion ban, and Republicans are all over the place on whether they even want one. I mean, I think if I were a voter, I'd be very confident in pro-life Republicans not really getting anything done because they've been so inconsistent. I think the myth that needs to be exposed to help these Republicans is that abortion is a political loser, and it's not. It's not. Bad candidates lost in 2022, and they should have lost. But great pro-life candidates who owned things like the heartbeat bill, who owned the scientific and biological reality of unborn children, who owned the precedent in our country where we do protect unborn children, those governors won big. Governor DeSantis, Governor Abbott in Texas, where I live, Governor Kemp, those who were strongly pro-life, who didn't apologize for the Supreme Court, they won and won big.
Do you think that this is something that Republicans should be embracing more and campaigning on versus trying to shy away from?
Absolutely. They need to go on offense. They need to highlight these amazing abortion survivors. They need to highlight the women who have had an abortion, the droves of abortion workers who have left their jobs, particularly over the last 10 or 15 years. They also need to ask some questions like, when can we regulate abortion? They don't have abortion. They don't care. Never had this. They want to go back to Roe v. Wade, and Roe v. Wade put us in a category with only North Korea, China, and Vietnam in regards to abortion. Is that what they want? Do they want to be North Korea and China? And we have to force them, which Alito cited, by the way, in his opinion.
Tech agencies working together led to the arrests right here at this hotel.
There's a burglary crew that's operating in your area.
An urgent tip to Cobb County Police from an out-of-state law enforcement agency. Police in Virginia and Indiana were hot on the trail of a major interstate burglary crew that had hit home after home, stealing more than $500,000. The tip came in last Thursday, just as Cobb police were working a burglary at this home on Rivercliff Drive. The back door had been smashed in, the house ransacked. Police also learned a home in Duluth was hit. $70,000 was stolen in that case. Investigators say the burglars had a simple yet effective way of knowing which houses to break into.
Pretending to be a floral delivery person. If somebody did not come to the door, then they knew, hey, this house is vacant, nobody's home, this is a good target for us to hit.
Detectives began to piece it all together.
So using flock cameras, they were able to track the vehicle that hit that house out in East Cobb.
The crew was known to stay in hotels relatively close to where the crimes took place.
So they started driving through zone patrol those hotels, and they found the vehicle that they found on the flock camera.
Investigators found out which room the four were in, knocked on the door, and took them into custody. Police also found some of their loot and took it into evidence.
$30,000 and multiple gift cards.
Police say putting an end to their crime spree was a result of multiple law enforcement agencies hundreds of miles apart working together.
Cobb County police officers were able to capture them. It's great for us. But not only that, now that we got these people in custody, officers in the other jurisdictions are able to follow suit and get justice for their victims as well.
For now, the four arrested are in the Cobb County Jail. In Cobb County, Denise Dillon, Fox 5 News.
New tonight.
President tonight. She is trailing it by double digits, but as you mentioned, she says this race is far from over. Donald Trump taking another victory lap. The former president celebrating his second win in just over a week.
This is a great, great state. You know, we won New Hampshire 3 times now. 3.
Nikki Haley fell short again, even with less competition after Florida's Ron DeSantis dropped out on Sunday.
Now, you've all heard the chatter among the political class. They're falling all over themselves, saying this race is over. Race is far from over. There are dozens of states left to go. And the next one is my sweet state of South Carolina.
Now the question is, will Haley stay in the race?
Well, I'm a fighter. And I'm scrapped. And now we're the last one standing next to Donald Trump. And today we got close to half of the vote.
On the Democrat side, President Joe Biden secured the win, even though his name wasn't on the ballot. That's because the DNC made South Carolina its first official primary. Trump is ready for the potential rematch. Nikki Haley's home state of South Carolina might be next, but early polls show she is also trailing Trump by double digits there. Tom, Christine.
Been able to change things since 1960s time. Mayor, you're an elected official. I'm sure this is somewhat personal to you. What do you think the broader implications are for? This isn't a Republican Democrat issue. The Democrats in New Hampshire are outraged by what happened.
They should be outraged. I mean, they should have the opportunity to vote the way they've always voted. I said before, this was a manipulation of the system just to benefit Joe Biden because he could not win organically. There are problems with our voting system. We know that, and we've seen it. I can tell you in my own county, I think 2 cycles ago, there was a 128-year-old woman that voted. We know a 128-year-old woman didn't vote. That shows you there's a problem. There's a problem with the system. There's often problems with the machines. We've had that in New Jersey. New machines, they didn't work. The lines were so long, right? People were upset. What did they do? They started to leave and not vote. That's what ends up happening. You talk about low voter numbers, it's because people don't trust the system. They've got to stop the manipulation on the Democrat side, because we're not doing it on the Republican side.
Expanding on that, Marianne Williamson, one of President Biden's few challengers that was tonight in New Hampshire, she's been saying about the DNC rule changes that the nominee is not anointed, sounding like, back to the monarchy with a king. How do you see that playing into voter turnout?
I think that what that does is it discourages people, and they decide to stay home. We've seen that in New Jersey. We have a hard enough time getting our voters out in New Jersey. They need to know that the process is real, and they need to know that their vote actually matters, that it counts. I think if people felt that, if there was trust returned to the system, people would get out and vote, and they wouldn't question it.
And Lieutenant, same question to you on the point about the nominees being anointed, quote unquote. How do you see that playing in potentially in terms of the general election in November?
Up the chimney of a home. The sheriff's office says that Anthony Rumplin's body was found wrapped in a blanket and stuffed up the chimney of a rental home in Macon. Rumplick's roommate discovered the body after noticing a ladder against the house and saw the blanket down the chimney. Deputies say it appears Rumplick has been dead for several weeks. The GBI will do an autopsy.
Terrifying moments for a family in Noonan. They woke up to loud noises coming from inside their house in the middle of the night. It was a burglar who appears to have been thirsty. Look.
Put that down. Put it down now. Put it down now. Put it down.
All right, should I get your name?
Yes, turn it down for me. Place your phone down. Place your phone down.
If you look closely, the burglar had a bottle of wine in his hand. Noonan police say Anthony Mark Chase broke into the home on January 8th. Police say the homeowner actually knew Chase. He's a handyman who did work for them before. Investigators say it's unclear why Chase broke into their home. They do know he caused about $1,000 worth of damage. He is charged with burglary and criminal damage to property.
Police need your help finding a man accused of robbing a store clerk in southwest Atlanta. Officers say a man went into the Metro by T-Mobile store on Martin Luther King Jr. Drive. Police say he spoke to an employee, pulled out a gun, and forced her into a back room. The victim told officers he demanded her belongings, which included her phone and the keys to her car. The man got away in her white 2016 Ford Fusion. Coming up here, it's the deadliest attack on Israeli forces since the war in Gaza began. Nearly two.
Within an hour in a general election, that the news stations on the East Coast call an election when half the country didn't even go vote. They're going to say, why am I going to go vote? You know, they've already anointed, all right, someone. So we have a lot of reform to do in this country with regard to our elections to make it fair. And as Christine said, to let people know that their vote counts. Right now, a lot of people don't believe their vote counts. But I got to tell you, it does, especially coming up in November of this year.
And what are the changes that we would need to see so that that trust is returned to the public?
Well, like I said before, you need voter ID. We have to know who's coming to the polls. I want to see somebody's picture to make sure that's the person that's voting. Let's find out how long have they lived at the address they say they lived at. And especially in primaries, do we have independents, Republicans voting in a Republican primary? Do we have Democrats who 6 weeks ago or a week ago changed their
do away with mail-in ballots?
Affiliation? So those are the reforms we need to make.
Let's take a look at the numbers as they continue to come in here. The top two candidates on the GOP side. We have 68, almost 70% of the votes in. Looks like there's a little bit of separation now being created. We're at about 7.5 to 8.5. Now you're looking at about a 10-point spread here with former President Trump, 70% roughly in. So with these numbers in mind, with everything that we've seen tonight with Senator Tim Scott and others on stage with former President Trump, what does this New Hampshire primary tell us about the current state of the Republican Party?
Well, hopefully what this tells us is that the Republican Party is coming together. That's what we need to see. We do not need the divisions that we saw in 2016 that continued and really did some damage to the country because they did damage to the Trump administration. We need folks to stop the shenanigans and come together. Tonight was an historic night for President Trump. It really was. I said it before. He is the first candidate in history to win 3 New Hampshire primaries. He's also the first non-incumbent to win both Iowa and New Hampshire. People need to pay attention to that. That is the voter that.
The Israeli Prime Minister has responded tonight.
And after months of negotiating, Senate leaders hope to finish a deal on the southern border, but both sides still have some hang-ups. A look at what they are.
If you have an...
They need to stop. They need to analyze. They need to ask themselves, why did they feel that way? If it had to do with tweets, well, guess what? He's really changing that dynamic, and they need to, realize that he wants peace and prosperity. He said it himself. Living well is the best revenge. He's not interested in revenge for any of this that's gone on, Russiagate, any of it. He wants the best for the country, and I hope people really listen to that.
Right now, we're going to bring it over to NTD's Dave Martin, who's over at the Data Hub to chat. Dave, what do we got?
Welcome back. Well, the night is almost done, but let's look at the 3 most populous cities again, starting with Manchester here. This is a population 115,000 here. As you can see, 84% again is in Trump with a lead of 15% over Haley. Well, let's look at Nashua. This is the second most populous at 90,000. That is Hudson, that is not. This is Nashua. 70% of the votes have been counted. Trump is a 7-point lead over Haley right here. 70% of the votes are in. Let's go over also to the capital. This is Concord. This one, Haley, of course, she has got this one here. 99% of the votes have been counted. She's got a 7-point lead over Trump. Now, that's a reversal of 2016. Trump had actually won this one by 6 points. And this is where Tim Scott actually endorsed Trump. For whatever reason, she won it this time around.